Hello, and welcome to I Am My Sister's Keeper. I am Valerie, and I will be coming on every Monday um, to share things that will be beneficial to women that may have walked my path, women that um, may be experiencing difficulties in their life. I am a mother. I am a grandmother. I'm a wife. Um, Newlywed, basically, going on 2 years. And during my lifespan, I've experienced a lot of things, a lot of difficulties in my life. And during that time, I had people that were able to walk me through those seasons in my life. And where it wasn't easy, um, I am on the other side of that, and I just want to walk others through it. This channel is truly just to really walk sisters and whoever come across this video to walk you through being whole in every area of your life, to live a life that is enjoyable, um, to not just be existing in life and not truly living. And so for me, I've learned just after being married for 32 years and then getting a divorce and getting to learn myself all over again, I realized that I was existing the majority of my life and I wasn't living. And so that's the purpose for the channel. And I will probably, every time I do my lives or my videos, I will always talk about the purpose of the channel before I get on the topic. So the topic today is about parenting adult children. And I can remember years ago when I was talking to one of my closest friends, and she was talking to me about parenting her children. And her children at that time had to be mm, about 10, and one may have been about 7. And she was just talking about how difficult it was to raise her children, and the challenges that she was going through just with them growing up, um, and how she it came to where parenting appeared to be difficult for her. And she had and still have a very supportive husband, but just trying to juggle like daycare, who's going to watch them, who's going to pick them up, trying to work through their work schedules and all of that. She found it difficult she found parenting to be difficult. And so from that, she started talking to me about it. And that's when it hit me, and I just shared with her. I said, parenting for me when my children were young, it was a little bit challenging for me. Well, should I say a lot challenging, because I could relate to what she was talking about in terms of just finding someone to watch them or even a daycare. So I understood that part. And so I was just telling her, I said, but you know what? That parenting children at that age, even though it may be challenging, is not as is not the same when you're parenting adult children. And she was like, I would figure that when you raise an adult children, that the adult children, it would be easier because they can do everything themselves. They basically independent. And she was just saying that you don't have to worry about anybody watching them. Yeah, no, you don't. I mean, that is a fact. But then there's so many other things that come with challenges that comes with um, raising adult children. And so I find now that I've done both, raising my children at a young age, and married and all of that, and now I am remarried. But at the time, raising my children young and married, and then now them being adults, and I've had to experience both ways of parenting. Adult adult parenting um, is a lot more, can be a lot more difficult or challenging to an individual. It just depends on your child, and you're raising your child. And so for me, parenting my children when they were young was challenging because my husband and I, there's a lot of things that we want to go to that we were not able to go to because of finding someone to watch our children. And so we went to quite a bit of functions, but we went to functions that included families with their children. And so every once in a while, we would go to functions and we would ask people to watch our children. And sometimes that was challenging because then your own family wants to charge you, or they're like, well, send food with them if you're going to bring them over because I don't feel like cooking, and things of that nature. So, like I said, very seldom did we actually go anywhere that did not include children. So, of course, with raising children when they're young, you go through the puberty stages and all of that. You go through making sure that you keep your room clean, all of that, we go through with our children. But one of the things that life has not taught, I feel, parenting, or it's not, like I said in my description, raising adult children is not really a true discussion. When you're raising younger children, there are so many support systems out here to assist parents with raising adult children. Excuse me, not adult children, but smaller children. But there are not support systems out here that assist parents in parenting adult children. So raising and parenting are two different things. I think when our children are young, and I'll say, I would just say 17 and under, because at 18 they're considered to be adults, and I found that out. My husband and I, my ex-husband and I, when our son um, was driving with a suspended license, and he ended up going to jail, and we wanted to talk to him, and we wanted to see what can be done, and could someone tell us what happened. And they said, well, he's an adult now. And really, in Michigan, and depending on your state, 17 they're considered to be an adult, and they don't have to, if they get into any trouble, they don't have to tell you that what occurred and where was they picked up and when is court. They don't have to share those things with you. And that was mind blowing to me. But so I would say from the ages of birth to 16, we're raising our children. We're instilling in them things that they will help them as they become an adult, as they begin to be independent, as they begin to go out into the world and live on their own independently. So I feel that from ages 0 to 16, we are raising our children. And then from 17 and up, we're parenting our children, because whatever they didn't get from 0 to 16, and now even nowadays, because I'm an educator as well, there are some things that you can't even put in them at 13 and 14 years old, because I see the challenges that parents go through even at that particular age. But when they become an adult, we're parenting them. There may be things that we may be able to walk them through, as it relates to what to look for when you're looking for an apartment, what to look for when you're looking for a vehicle. What are the things you're looking for when you're looking for a companion, or if you're, when they get of age, and they may desire to be married. What should you look for in a husband? What should you look for in a wife? Those are things, and I think those are parenting as opposed to raising, Because of course, when our children are 0 and 16 years old, we're not telling them at 6 months. We're not telling them at 2 and 3. This is what you need to look for in a wife or a husband. They're not there yet. So that's why I say from the age of 0 to 16, we're raising our children, and then from 17 and up, we're parenting our children. And so parenting can be challenging. And for me, it has been challenging. And it didn't really start off being challenging, I would say. But the more and more my children became independent, the more challenging that they became. And so I find even now that parenting is challenging, because when you're sitting down and you're talking with your child that you birth, you're talking to a man or you're talking to a woman. So when you're talking to them, they have that mind frame that I'm an adult. This was before, prior to children, prior to a wife or a husband. They feel like they're an adult. And so when you talking to them, they don't have the mindset they had at 0 and 16 years old. They don't feel like, well, I got to sit here and I got to listen to this, or I have to take it, or they want to interject right away. They want to share what it is that they don't agree with. And I remember working with a colleague who shared with me that her adult son, she and her husband doesn't see him anymore. She said that they raised him, and when he moved out on his own, he was because they're pastors and everything. Well, she's the first lady, her husband is a pastor, and she said that he was coming to church and all of that stuff. Same thing that he was doing prior to when he was not living in the home with them. And so she said that at some point he just stopped coming to church. But then he still would call, he still would come to functions that they have. And she said one day he just stopped coming to the functions. He stopped coming to church. And when they would call to try to talk, just to check on him, he wasn't answering his phone. So, they would do pop up and talk to him, make sure that he was okay. And he was fine. And then his siblings would reach out to him, and periodically he would talk to them. But at some point, when she talked to me, she told me that she hadn't seen her son in years. And for me, that was mind blowing. I could not even imagine at that time that happening, because like I said, my children were adults, but we still talked, we still interacted, we still do all our holidays together, all of that. So I couldn't even imagine. And I was like, well, what do you think happened? She said, I don't know what happened. And that was just like puzzling to me, like why it had to be something that happened to cause your child to no longer be present in your life. And he grew up in a home with both of his parents that loved him, grew up in a home that was faith-based, father, pastor, mama, first lady. And then she even shared with me that her son had a child. And she said that he was still seeing the child at first, and then he stopped seeing the grandchild as well. So she just made sure that they stayed in his life. But I just never could relate to her, because at the time I had a great relationship with my children. Well, 10 plus years later, I can relate. I can relate with her. And I never thought that I would be able to say that, but I can relate to her. What happened? I don't know. I just know that at some point, my relationship with my sons, mainly, because I have two boys and a daughter, and my daughter is the oldest. And but my oldest son is where it's been very challenging trying to have a relationship with him. And I didn't realize that there was an issue until there was no contacting me. There was no me calling him and him not answering the phone. And so at some point, I was like, what's going on? What's the problem? And he began to talk about childhood and how, the things that he felt like he experienced as a child, and felt like, that I wasn't there for him as a child. And that just, I don't know, I was just lost for words. I got married when I was 17 years old. No, I got married when I was 18. Had my first child when I was 17 years old. So my last year of high school, I was raising my daughter, being a wife, walking to school, walking home from school, doing homework and all of that. I didn't have really friends like that or whatever. And when people found out that I lived in my own house when I was going to school, they thought that they would try to befriend me, because I guess they figured they would come to my home, and this was going to be the hangout. And that never happened. I would walk to school. My husband would take our daughter to either like my sister-in-law, my daughter-in-law, and then at some point as she got older, we would take her to like a daycare, and I would go to school and all of that. And so I got married young. I had my children young, and I did the best I knew how to do as a mother. So, and then as I continued on in the marriage became very abusive. I experienced physical abuse. I experienced verbal abuse. And as the years and years went on, it got really bad. So I can remember parenting my children and being very depressed. But even when I was parenting them, raising them at that time, at their age, I still managed to make sure that they had everything that they needed for school, make sure that they had their uniforms, make sure that their hair was cut, make sure that my daughter's hair was done. I never neglected my children in any way. And when it came to that, in terms of food and all of that, but I was a very broken woman. And I realized that now as I'm older, but I was a very broken woman. So I was raising my children as a broken woman, as a woman that was trying to hold on to a marriage and parent my children all at the same time. And then when my children got of age, I began to work to continue to provide for my children. But so my children experienced and witnessed a lot of things. They witnessed me crying. They witnessed me balled up in a knot, and closing myself up in the room and making sure that I would make sure that they did. I would do their homework with them, and I would make sure they had their food. I make sure they had their snacks. Everything. I always make sure that with those type of things were in the pantry. But when I look back on my life as I was raising my children, I was in a broken place. And so some of the things that my children have shared with me, mainly my oldest son, I could see if he would say, well, Ma, there was times, yes, you cook for us. You make sure we had the best things, as we relate to clothing and shoes and things of that nature. You raised us up in church and to love God and all of that. But emotionally, like, I can't even remember if I know I hug my children all the time, but I don't. And I'm sure at times I told them I love them, but that's been so long ago. So I can understand that part. But to say that you didn't feel like I love you, or to make it appear like I was this neglectful parent, is very hurtful to me. And so parenting as an adult is hard. So I basically just came on here to say, If you are a sister, if you are a brother, if you are an individual that are raising parenting adult children who felt like you didn't do such a great job at raising them, or things that they encountered while you was raising them, they are still trying to hold these things over your head. Like I shared with my son, all I can do is apologize to you. You have to go through the process of making peace with your past, making peace with things that you did not experience as a child. You have to go through that process, because what I found myself doing is being hurt by the things that were said by my adult son, and I found myself even going into like some form of depression because I sacrificed so much to make sure that my children had the best life, and to make sure that my children were comfortable in their own skin of being who they were. And I stayed in a marriage longer than I should have, to make sure that my children were well. And I catered to everything and everybody else, and I did not cater to myself. But like I said to my son, I was young, I was broken, I was in a abusive marriage, and I did the best parenting that I possibly could do. Nobody taught me how to parent. And I know that's a cliche because you hear that all the time, but nobody taught me how to parent. Nobody taught me how to parent. I witnessed how my mama took care of us. My mom took good care of us. My parents divorced. My mom took good care of us. And it was 6 of us. My mom took really good care of us as a single parent by herself. She took really good care of us. We never went without. So that's how I raised my children. She raised us in church. That's how I raised my children. So whatever I did not give you, it was not intentional. I don't know of any parent that gives birth to a child that intentionally say, I'm going to be neglectful to this child. I'm going to hurt this child. I don't care what this child have. I'm not going to instill anything in this child. They can figure it out when they become an adult. No parent does that. And like I shared with my son, you're a parent now. So you'll get what I'm saying as you raise and parent your child. But what I had to come to a conclusion about and making a decision about, and that is I have to be okay with the mother that I was to my children, because I did the best with what I knew. I did the best under the circumstances. And so I'm here to say to whoever is maybe going through this with your adult children, and they may even be your teenage children that want to try to punish you for things that they encounter, or with you, from you raising and parenting them. You did the best you could with what you were able to do, both emotionally and physically. And so for many years, trying to just kind of figure that whole piece out, that whole parenting piece, my children are adults. My children are adults. I love them. I will always be there for them. I will be there to support them in any way that I can. But I have to make peace with the raising and the parenting that I was able to give to them. With all that I had, like I shared with them, I went through verbal abuse, physical abuse, manipulation. I went through lack of financial assistance. I did everything basically on my own with a husband in the house. So I can no longer, and you can no longer, try to make up what your children feel like they did not get from you. Because what it's going to do to you is it's going to get you into a bad place emotionally. And you will begin to second guess Well, was I a good mother? Was I a good father? Um, you'll begin to second guess the things that you did to parent him to the best of your ability. So I'm saying to you, if you are that parent that has children that feels like the things that they are experiencing in life is because of things that you did not do as a parent, the only thing that you can offer your child is I'm sorry. That's all you can do. That's all I can do. All I can say is I apologize for whatever you feel that I did not provide to you as your mother. And it took me years to get here, but I'm here because life is meant to live. And you can allow things to stagnate you because people don't choose to move on or make peace with their past. The only thing that you can offer your child, if this is you that's trying to parent an adult child that has some issues with you, and you always find strife, and 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 I've even, like I told my son, we were at the house for your birthday. We celebrated his birthday. We stayed and laughed and ate and the family and all of that until 3 in the morning. Like I told them, I had to almost put you out my house. And then after that, you just disappear. You don't call, don't whatever. So my son, my daughter, your daughter, my children, your children, they have to make peace with their past. They have to make peace with whatever they thought they should have received from their parent, or whatever they should have received from me, or whatever they should have received from you that they didn't get. That's out of we can't make peace for them. They have to do that on their own. And so don't allow your children, and for me it's my adult children, but it may be your teenage child, do not allow them to cause you to relive raising them or parenting them. It's time to move forward. It's time to make peace with your past and move forward. So I stopped here to say to you all that make peace with your past. Make peace with whatever you feel. If you may feel like, well, I could have did this better as a parent, make peace with that. And like I said, your adult child has to make peace with whatever they feel that you weren't able to provide for them. But don't let them put you in parenting jail. Don't let them keep dangling it over your eyes, over your head. Sorry. Don't let to the point where you're hurting and you're crying and you're broken and it upsets you. Make peace and be okay with the parent that you were able to be to your child. And stop reliving when you raised them and what you should have did and could have did, shoulda, woulda, coulda. And the clock is constantly ticking. Life is continuously going on, and now you stuck. You don't regress because you're back to when your child was born and when you were raising them, when they was in elementary, when they was in middle school, when they were a baby, when they was in high school, went on to college, and now they living a life as an adult, and you back reliving that. It's over. It's in the past. Let it go. And let me tell you, it's not easy, and it wasn't easy for me. But I have to get to a place to where I let it go. And so that's what I've done. That's the decision that I've made. And there are times where, the hurt tries to rise and all of that. And at that time I just pray. And I'm saying to you, if your child didn't tell you, I'm saying it to you if your spouse didn't tell you. You were a good parent. You were a good mother. You were a good mother. You were a good father when you were raising those children, and you are a good parent as you parent an adult child. They may not want us to parent them, and that's okay, and we got to be okay with that. But don't, and the other thing I want to say is don't try to live our lives through our children because you get disappointed that way. Let our children live their lives, and we live our life, and we're here to parent them, and we have opening door to parenting them, and whenever they need it. But stop allowing your children to cause you to live your past, to go back and regress what it was like or what type of parent you was when they were children and now as they are an adult. The only thing that you can offer your adult child is I'm sorry. If I've done or you feel like I've done anything that has caused life to be difficult for you, I apologize. That's all you have. And you pray for your child. I pray for my children, not just my children. I pray for my family. I pray for you. I pray for women that like me or been through abusive relationships and just life haven't been kind of has had some rocky times. That's what I'm here for. So again, when it comes to parenting your adult child, the only thing you can offer them is I apologize. Apology. That's all you have for them. That's all I have. But don't allow them to put you in parent jail. Don't allow them to manipulate you, because some of our adult children will try to manipulate you and want you to feel bad about the things that they feel you did not do. And let me just say this to them, it feels real to them. It's a reality to them, but it's not facts. But that's why we apologize. That's why we pray. But we don't live and we don't regress and we don't go back. We continue to move forward. So, again, thank you for taking out the time with me on I Am My Sister's Keeper. The purpose of this channel is to help my sisters not to reinvent the wheel, to help my sisters to avoid some of the things that I experienced by being transparent and by sharing. So again, make peace with your past. Whatever it was that you felt like you could have did better as a parent, or your child may feel like, well, I didn't get those things again. Just make peace with it. Apologize, pray, give it to God, and make peace with your past. So again, thank you for joining me on I Am My Sister's Keeper. I look forward to connecting with you every Monday. Sometimes I will come on when I feel led to share something with you that I may be experiencing. I will come on. But again, please like and subscribe to this channel. Have a great week. And remember, I am my sister's keeper. Bye-bye.